What if the soul is real? Could it choose when to return? It's the kind of question that unleashes a cascade of speculation across philosophy, religion, and science. Since antiquity, many cultures have believed that a human being is more than a physical body, that there is an invisible, enduring part called the soul, a part that can persist after death, wander, return, and even determine its own fate according to laws we do not yet understand. In this piece, we'll probe that idea from several angles, beginning with the history of thought, moving through reports of near-death experiences, into myths of rebirth and choice, and finally asking, if a soul truly can choose, what determines that choice and how it shapes the lives of those who remain. First, a few clarifications. Soul, spirit, consciousness. These three terms often get blended together, but in many traditions they differ. The soul is commonly treated as a metaphysical entity, a part of human nature linked to the fabric of the cosmos. Spirit can carry the weight of emotion and personality. Consciousness is the subject's felt experience. While modern science analyzes consciousness through the brain, many religions and philosophies argue that consciousness and soul are not identical with biology, and therefore might exist independently. The history of ideas shows that belief in a soul's capacity to choose is hardly new. In Hinduism and Buddhism, rebirth is not merely a cycle. Sometimes it's a process in which the soul exercises a degree of agency, choosing the next life in relation to karma. Ancient Western thinkers like Plato also viewed the soul as an entity that exists before and after the body. Plato portrays the soul as a traveler between the world of forms and the material world, able to recollect prior knowledge before embodiment and, in some tales, to decide to return in order to complete a task or repay a debt. In the Abrahamic traditions, the soul is typically granted by God, and any return, if it happens, is tied to divine will rather than the soul's autonomous choice. Even so, stories of incarnation, of angels descending to earth, and of the destinies of chosen souls sometimes suggest an element of choice in how a soul acts, though that choice may be part of a larger plan. In folk worlds, the stories are diverse. A mother in tears calling her child's soul back, legends of spirits choosing a moment to inhabit a body in order to send a dream or guide descendants. Many summoning rites exist to help a soul decide, or be persuaded, to return in a particular setting, to complete unfinished business, to take revenge, or to console the living. Oral cultures suggest that people long ago not only believed souls persist, but believed they interact with the world purposefully. Entering the modern era, science brings another lens. Near-death experiences, NDEs, are recorded from those who returned from clinical death. Light, peace, a sense of leaving the body, and sometimes a choice to come back. Physicians and researchers, such as Raymond Moody, Sam Parnia, and Eben Alexander, have compiled cases that unsettle the mainstream. Some describe standing before a boundary faced with an inviting light and being given the option to stay or return to the body. These accounts open the possibility that consciousness, or the soul, if you prefer, can be aware apart from the brain and can decide on the basis of a transcendent experience. Science counters that NDEs may be products of brain chemistry under hypoxia, or of neurotransmitters released under extreme stress, mechanisms that could explain out-of-body sensations and the light. Yet biological explanations do not erase how vivid and meaningful these experiences are to the people who have them, nor do they address cases where accurate details are reported that seem impossible to know while comatose. Suppose a soul can separate from the body. Could it choose when to return? Two theoretical paths appear. The libertarian view. The soul is an agent with free will, capable of weighing consequences for family and unfinished ties, delaying departure to fulfill responsibilities. The determinist view. The soul is bound by cosmic law, karma, fate, or a divine decree, and can return or depart only under preset conditions. In many spiritual traditions, the soul may delay settling in order to fulfill aims, for example, to be reborn in a specific body according to a vow. Stories of pregnant women sensing a relative's soul moving in reflect a belief that a soul can choose its mode of rebirth. There are also ritual technologies that petition a soul's return, using charms, curses, or memory-linked objects to create a mooring point in the physical world that helps a soul find its way back at a chosen time. But an ethical problem arises. If a soul could return to exact revenge or manipulate the living, that freedom would be a danger. Many religions prescribe rules to prevent a malign return: prayers, proper burial, rites to settle the dead so they cannot be summoned by sorcerers or ill-wishers. Communities likewise evolved moral codes and customs to limit abuse of such supposed powers. There is also the notion of communal responsibility. Parents, kin, and village are charged not only with funerary care but with maintaining the anchor for the soul, memorial rites that ease its peace and prevent abandonment. Perhaps a soul's choice to return is shaped by communal feeling. Deeply bound souls might resist departing and thus delay or seek to return to protect or warn those they love. Culturally, many civilizations honor souls who choose their exit for noble ends. The warrior who chooses death to save comrades, the mother who chooses to linger to shield her child. Heroic legends often grant protagonists agency over fate after death, both as moral symbol and as explanation for the inexplicable. From a modern psychological angle, the idea that souls can choose to return expresses a need for control. Confronted with death, we search for meanings that soften loss. Tales of souls returning to say farewell or to teach a final lesson act as therapy for the living, structuring grief with added significance. So what evidence supports real choice? Some NDE reports include a felt sense of mission or explicit, "I was asked whether to return or remain," hinting at subjective decision. But science emphasizes biological and neural factors, and no experiment has yet shown a soul separating from matter and choosing independently. That is the hypothesis's largest limit. There are also spiritual reports from many cultures. Shamans in Siberia, the Amazon, and West Africa speak of trained journeyers who leave the body and negotiate with other souls. They describe compelled agreements, but these are subjective narratives, hard to verify by scientific standards, and often dependent on the believer's frame. In the future, cross-disciplinary work may clarify things. Progress in cognitive neuroscience, combined with curated NDE datasets, could help partition biological, spiritual, and cultural components of the return experience. If we find recurring patterns across cultures that resist purely biological explanations, that would be a strong sign of something else at work, reshaping how we think about the soul and choice. Ethically, if a soul can choose, we should set safeguards, respecting the wishes of the dying, enabling reconciliation and last words, and designing rites that prevent coercion, while refusing practices that force or manipulate souls for gain or revenge. This is both a social and religious project, touching the ultimate freedom of a soul, assuming it exists. Speculative science fiction opens further vistas. If one day we could communicate with a temporarily departed soul, we'd face novel legal puzzles. Would a soul have civil rights? Property rights? Could it sign contracts with memories or stand trial? These remain fiction for now, but envisioning them forces us to think through responsibility and freedom beyond the body. In the end, if the soul is real, can it choose when to return? Admits no simple answer. It lives between the light of personal experience and the shadow of scientific limits. It is a philosophical, religious, and ethical question that asks us to widen our minds, honoring ancient belief while insisting on objective evidence. If a soul can choose, its choice is likely shaped by karma, compassion, community, and whatever communication persists with this world. If not, then tales of choosing are our way of consoling ourselves, of crafting meaning out of loss. Either way, the question is not merely academic. It touches our deepest fear and hope, to be made whole, to retain some say over our fate even after leaving the body. Perhaps that longing itself is why, for thousands of years, culture, religion, and science have kept asking about the soul, about choice, and about the meaning of return.